Hi, today I'm doing a catch-up book review video, so bear with me. These are some of the books I've read over the last couple of months. First up, back just before Christmas, I was sent an ARC of this book. Let me get the light off there for you so you can see it. There we are. This is Thomas Wildus and the Book of Sorrows, which is written by J.M. Burgon. I received an ARC, which was really nice, totally out of the blue, via Goodreads, so you know it's worth doing. The sequel comes out pretty soon, as far as I'm aware, but this is effectively a book for the 8 to 12 category, reading-wise, and it's a an urban fantasy, I would say. Very much sort of in the veins of Percy Jackson rather than Harry Potter, because all the events take place almost in the real world in here, which is rather cool. We follow a young lad called Thomas. His father went missing when he was younger, but the last thing his father said to him is magic is real. So Thomas is itching to find proper magic, real magic. And very much like in the Never-Ending Story, Thomas finds himself drawn to a bookshop one day and says what he's looking for and is given this book, the Book of Sorrows. And there is a set of rules by which he has to read it. Otherwise there are consequences, because as we all know, magic always comes with a price. I have to say, I really enjoyed this. It was a nice, easy read, but obviously because of the age group it was, that made perfect sense. But I wasn't bored by it. I was intrigued to see what was happening. Thomas was a likeable chap. His friends were really nice. There's some diversity in this group as well, which is lovely. And the whole concept of magic in this book is really clever. It's not Harry Potter with wands and all that. There's a much more almost natural flow to the magic in this book that I really, really liked. I've got someone who's read Percy Jackson and wants something else that's kind of similar but different. You can't go too wrong with this. I would really recommend it, actually. I really enjoyed it, and I like the way that the Book of Sorrows was used to tell some of the history of what was going on, and then not everybody was who you thought they were at first, and it was just entertaining, really entertaining. So I highly recommend this series, and I would recommend picking this up and giving it a go. Just before Christmas, I started reading The Poppy War by R.F. Kuhn, and this has been raved about. I mean, I don't normally pick up books that have an endorsement by the Daily Mail on them for various reasons, but I gave it a go because so many people that I'd come across in real life and on the booktube community were talking about this book. It's the first, so, you know, bearing in mind this is over 500 pages long, people, so, and it's the first one. The sequel comes out later this year. I've obviously got the paperback because it's a little bit easier to carry, and is a historical fantasy in almost an alternative China. It deals with drug addiction, with war, with military life, and it's very much a book of two halves. I've done quite a detailed review on this on my book blog, linked down below. And the general consensus is people start out liking it because it follows Rin, who's an orphan, and she ends up being accepted in this military academy, and she's trained, and people, I really liked all the bit in the military academy. Yeah, and then it all changes, and war comes, and the first half is kind of nice in comparison. The second half is brutal, bloody, visceral, it really grim in places, but I really enjoyed that split of how the story had been told. Rin she's a teenage kid, and she's very much a teenage kid of type. She's not that likeable. She's selfish, she's stubborn, she's argumentative, she doesn't endear herself to other people, she's permanently got this chip on her shoulder. So she's not a very nice person to be reading about. She's not your typical hero, but then this book isn't set up in the typical way. And by the time you get to the end, you really understand that this world, it's not about good against evil. It's about what people do. And people aren't nice, people aren't heroes, people aren't innately evil or wonderful. They make mistakes. And that's very, very clear in this book. I did enjoy it. It was I would certainly say towards the end it was like, yikes, that was not pleasant to read. But I really enjoyed the development of Rin as a character. She's not the person you start off with at the beginning. By the end, she's a totally different person, and I'm not going to spoil it, but she changes big time for lots of reasons. And they're all logical steps. It's the choices we make as people. I will give you a heads up. There is violence. There is talk of rape in this book, quite graphic talk later on. There is war crime violence. I mean, some of the stuff is pretty horrific towards the second half. So either don't eat on a full stomach, or if those kind of things are a problem for you, just be aware the second half of this book is hard. It's not for the faint-hearted, I would think, but a very entertaining read, a very thought-provoking read as well. And the sequel comes out this year. It's called The Dragon Republic. The final book review I'd like to do today is Circle of Shadows by Evelyn Skye. This came in January's Fairy Loot box, and I read it as part of the Fairy Loot read-along of the week beginning the 11th of February, which is probably a great way for me to make sure I read these books, because I am getting to a point where I have so many books that some get pushed to the side if they don't pick my interest straight away. I have a couple on this shelf behind me, still waiting to be read from last year. I know, I'm so bad. Circle of Shadows is effectively a fantasy series. Yes, it is a series. Following a group of 4 friends who are ninjas for this almost paradise place. They serve the Empress, and they have access to a form of magic that's kind of cool, but also quite restrictive. Everything's going hunky-dory until history comes to bite everybody's bottom and tip everything upside down and change everything forever. This book was very enjoyable, very quick to read. Yes, it looks a big book, but actually the chapters are so short, you just whiz through it. There are several different points of view. It's not written in first person present, yes, which is great. But it can get a little bit confusing if you're not keeping track of who you're reading about as to what's going on. There is fantastic friendship goals in this. It's really, really good. My biggest gripe is what feels like a forced romance in here. In fact, almost 2 forced romances. If you want to know more about that, please go and read my blog, because there are spoilers, which I can't really talk about if you've not read this book. I will say, if you like friendship stories, ninjas, magic, betrayal, and a quick read, this might be the book for you, particularly if you're looking for something to fill a gap for now. You don't want to do the big epic fantasy, you don't want to do the lightweight contemporary. This might be a good filler. A lot of the characters are very, very likeable. There are some where you just want to go, shut up. And the twists and turns, particularly towards the end, are very good. And unlike some other YA books where the twists are out of the blue, these are signposted. If you've been paying attention, you will see these coming. And they're not quite such a shock to the system. The ending is not rushed. A lot happens, but it's not rushed. So it's very satisfying to get to the end of this book. It ends on a pretty damn big cliffhanger, so be aware of that. But, you know, we're going to get a sequel in a year, so I'm not fussed. There are. Quick, brief book review. Obviously, I have read other things, and I still have other books to be finishing, but those are my edited highlights. If you want to know any more about any of those books, all reviews are either on Goodreads or on my book blog. You know, links are down below, you know where to go. If you want spoilers as well, particularly, they're kind of in that area rather than here. I'd like to try and keep this as spoiler-free as possible for people who are just passing through. Hi. Thanks for stopping by. So please let me know down below, what have you read in the last couple of months that you really enjoyed, and particularly, you know, one reason why you really enjoyed it would be kind of cool. I will shortly have March's TBR coming up. Wish me luck, because I've done terrible this month. I'm really struggling to finish some books at the moment, which might suggest they're not ones I'm going to keep. we'll see how it goes. I will leave a link to a small booktuber down below. Please go and check them out, share the book love, and as always, thank you very much for watching and happy reading. Bye!